Okay, this is my one thing about getting old. I don't want to have crusty feet. So I'm like already planning. I have to get like a bi-weekly pedicure at least.
You know, my fear about getting old
What?
is I'm afraid of the old man fate.
What
like,
is that?
You ever catch old men, but they're not doing nothing, and they sitting in and they look like this?
My husband's godmother told me, she said, Nay, one thing you got to do, take care of your teeth and your feet.
Yes.
And I feel like we just covered it.
Yes.
That's going to be the goal.
You have to take care of yourself.
They tried to get me to go to the dentist. I'm not going. I don't even want to open my mouth when I sing, but I'm not going.
If you don't, you gonna have to do that lady in the senior choir laugh when you got teeth problems. You know, like this.
What is happening? Well, Uncle Kirk. Hey. Okay, so thank you, because we're on tour and we usually do car chats.
You're welcome.
But now we're on the bus, so it's a bus
really
chat.
dope. Which is really dope. And this is not a regular bus, ladies and gentlemen. This is like Naomi's flexing. This is a tour bus. It's not like a Greyhound sit-up. You know what I'm saying? This is a tour bus.
What's crazy is your bus is right there with the same praise. So I'm supposed to let you hear a song. If you hate the song, pretend. Pretend you love it.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard it, but it's my new single. It just came out. It's called World on Fire.
I love it.
You listen to it?
I love it. This line right here. See, that's what I'm talking about. But I heard that line. It's like, what did I say to you when you walked off stage at the BT Awards? What did I say to you? Do you remember backstage?
Yes, you said, let's go, let's go, let's go, Map City, let's go, artists, let's go, artists, not worship leader, artists. And you said, wait, why am I all up in your face like this?
All in your presence. But you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you interpret from that? What did you interpret me saying to you?
I think I took it as you saying like that's, I guess maybe I don't know, I showed up as an artist, or there was strength there in the artistry of it. But which is funny because I kind of felt more like in that moment it was both. Like I could have went off and we had time and space, but there was a pullback and like, yo, let them like leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that is a part of artistry.
It is.
It's the fade off of the song at the end that makes people listen close. Like, wait, what's happening?
That's the mantra that I've always received in my life, and I think that for me, I was saying that you can be both. That there's a duality in both, and to see you walk in that duality on that big stage, that was that by nature is not one that is the anatomy of what we do and the anatomy of where Matt lives, and for you to communicate truth in that space, there has to be a certain sense of artistry to do that. Like Jesus was the artist illustrator, and that's why we can receive and relate to his gospels, because he taught in parables and he used hyperbole and he used metaphors, because he was the master communicator. Watching you in a space of worship, and then watching you in this space, because every worship leader may not always have that space to be in that space of worship, and that doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them wrong. And every artist does not have the space of also being a worship leader. Like, I don't know if I would be strong serving in a collective body, leading worship. That's not my strength. I would want to be backstage working on the lights and making sure, okay, all right, she's coming on stage to do Jira, hit her with the light. You know what I mean?
So like production is your like
has always been
thing. But what about preaching?
I love to teach.
Okay.
I love to teach. I am a fan. You know, I was a youth pastor in Inglewood for about 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, while I was recording the Hero album. I have a pastor friend that's been my hero. His name is Dr. Kenneth Ulmer, Bishop Omer.
Yeah.
Faithful Central. That's like my pops. That's like one of my pops.
Wow.
I met him when I was 20 years old. And so we've been friends for years because he started out as a musician too.
Okay.
With You Too Young for This. It's called the GMWA, Gospel Music Worship of America.
I've
Have you ever
heard
of
yeah.
that? Yeah. So back in the day, James Cleveland, all the big...
Those are the workshops, right, where people would come together, sing and do... Yeah.
Yes, and they were big back in the day. And so back in 2004, I preached at his church, and after service, he said, Kirk, I need you to come help me save these kids in this community. And the church would fly me out twice a month. We put together a whole youth program focused on the youth of Inglewood. Like, instead of like worship and praise, we would let the kids crump dance. Yeah, we had like a DJ, and then I would get up and I would spit. And I'd be like, y'all come eat. And the kids would come down, and I would just share the gospel and teach. And I did it for 5 years. It was the most beautiful time. So yes, I love to teach. I love to study. I love to learn. I love, and I do preaching as well. So, yeah.
One of the themes of World on Fire, I think, is this duality, which is interesting.
I
how
love the idea.
we're talking about this. It's like, I wrote it from a place of like being in the pandemic. I wrote it with a few people. I don't want to act like I just wrote it by myself. But like being in the pandemic and seeing stuff destroyed outside and kind of being like, oh no. And then, but also being trapped inside because we weren't really allowed to go out, and the internal struggles and battles that happen, and even clarity and coming to yourself. It was like this duality, like it's almost like no place was safe, even though you were in your home safe from harm. There was still a bunch of emotional and mental things that had to happen, or that happened to many of us during that time. And I think that we were faced with, like, the song kind of goes into this idea of like, we wanted to survive, right? People were rioting and protesting and posting, because some of us could only post about the sanctity of life, right? Like people being able to live and not be killed in the streets. But also we were posting and rioting, and politicians and doctors were doing it in order for us to live and not die from COVID-19. It was this both thing, but then also there were people that were burning things down and setting things on fire. And I think that there's this duality even in God, where we see he gives life and then he sends a flood, and just like, hello, let's wrap it and let's start again. So there's this duality. I think it's helping me even now thinking about this duality of being a worship leader and an artist. How for you, or have you ever really had that level of like duality where it's like both are true, and then like having to choose between, like, I guess use wisdom on when it's time to be this or when it's time to be that?
I have always believed that effective ministry happens when minstrels live in the tension. That if we are so heavenly bound that we're not earthly good, then we're a problem. If we're so busy wanting to try to reach the unsaved that we're no longer salt, that's a problem. We should live in the tension. That real evangelism happens when minstrels and torchbearers and servants live in the, oh wretched man that I am, when I would do good. Think about it. Paul was the only human to ever live to see heaven, go to heaven, and still come back to earth and still live in a tension. When I would do good, even so, that divine ethereal experience did not stop him from having fleshly struggles. He said, when I would do good, the only man that lived to see heaven and come back and talk about it still struggled with his humanity. We never want worship to be so selfish that if Jesus were to walk by, we would miss it.
Right.
And then we never want to be so caught up in the culture that if Jesus were to walk by, he would miss us.
Wow.
That just came off the top of my head. See, that's what 52 will get you.
Come on, 52.
See, these young boomers, these young Gen Zs and X's and O's and Y's, they don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Now that sounded like old man.
Yes, it's X's and O's.
They had the pop on it. There has been historically within Christendom this elitism that we've preached from and that we've lived in. Is that even when we've preached to others, it is very much where we are the savior saving the world. Where it's, you need to come so that I can help you. You need to get let me teach you. I am here from heaven to give this to you. Versus this posture of, that I'm no longer the patient, that I'm the physician and that you're the patient, but I am in the hospital bed next to you. I'm sick too. And let me tell you what the doctor did for me. And so the attention and the glory goes to the doctor, not to how good I keep the rules.
You said this to me, like, always remain a student, right? Like, always stay a student. And I feel like my version of that is to always try to be growing. I am, like, this, even the reason this whole project journey is coming out is because I am learning how to say the things that need to be said and own even my strength. And I used to run from that, and now being in a position where I'm like, that doesn't work, and I'm actually okay with myself, you know. So there's still like some adjustment happening. So,
and I welcome all of that. Here's my shoulder, you can lean. No, not so fast.
No, it's not.
On me, yeah. Thank you for this interview. I had a great time on the bus.
Thank you for coming on the bus. Y'all, ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Franklin. Thank you for coming. I love you. I'll see you in a few minutes.